Hey guys, in this video, I want to share with you a exterior detail that I did in the direct sun on this black Audi and share with you basically the top things I modified to make washing and detailing in the direct sun way easier on black paint. What's going on, guys? Luke here with Wilson Auto Detailing. Now let me jump straight into this here. The very first thing that I want to highlight is the Pro 100 DI tank. Now this is a deionized water tank, right? So this is going to be basically what filters out the solids in any given tap water around the country and lets you wash a car without a bunch of minerals getting deposited on the paint, and therefore without having a bunch of water spots get deposited on the paint. The reason why I'm bringing this particular Pro 100 from the spot-free water systems, I think that's what the company is called, is because now Car Supply's warehouse carries that particular DI tank. I've been using it for maybe the last like 3 years, and it was relatively hard to get because it was on kind of like an obscure website, and now it's readily available. And there is a half tank version. So there's a Pro 50, I think it's called, which is basically just that tank cut in half, which all that means is it holds less resin and therefore will last for fewer washes. Now, the thing that I want to highlight really quickly about this tank is I have been using the Pro 100 tank for a long time now. And I will say, I am not annoyed at all at how often I have to, or how infrequently I have to change the resin. Obviously, you will have to change the resin of a DI tank periodically the more cars you wash. That will change depending on where you are in the country and depending on how hard the water is. I will say, though, I hear different detailers sometimes complain about how often or how for few washes the DI tank lasts. That has not been my experience at all with this tank. Now, I don't think there's anything special about this tank, but I do think that maybe just the combination of where I live, in addition to how much resin is held in the particular tank, it's just not a big deal whatsoever. So this is something that I would highly suggest for anybody who does have the budget, because it's something that I would call a big domino tool in the detailing world. No, I don't sell them. I don't get kickback, right? This is just straight up my suggestion. The DI Pro 50 or Pro 100 is a perfect solution for people washing in the sun. The next thing that is far more controllable rather than buying a new tool if you're on a budget is the way that I dilute certain products. So I want to explain this. I was using an iron decontamination chemical before I clay bar this Audi, and when you're using this type of chemical in direct sun, sometimes on black paint, and this happens a lot more with oxidized, older, kind of unkept black paint. This was relatively new black paint, so it didn't happen, but I do it anyways. I dilute my iron decontamination chemical. So I will even dilute it 1-to-1. Like I'll literally pour out half the bottle, put it in a separate bottle where I can use it later, and I'll fill the manufacturer's bottle up with 50% water. The reason for that is because I don't want that harsh chemical, and it is a relatively harsh chemical, sitting on the paint, drying on the black paint in direct sun, because it can stain it. And sometimes this happens, and you really do have to come in afterwards with a very light polish on certain areas to get rid of it quickly. You can't really pull it off with like a clay bar or anything like that, because it does kind of set in or etch into the paint very quickly. And really, it's not even etching. It'd be like what I would call a stain, essentially. But you can just see a mark. It's a darker colored mark, or on oxidized paint, it's a darker colored mark. And sometimes on other paint, it is kind of a lighter colored mark if it's a newer paint. So I dilute that as well. Now, speaking of dilution, I want to highlight what I'm doing here, because I'm using Meguiar's all-purpose cleaner for the front grille area to get the bugs off. But rather than my classic 10-to-1 dilution, I have diluted the product 20-to-1. Again, Meguiar's APC is not always what I use, but it can be an effective bug cleaner. And you can see I'm using a really soft microfiber towel with this, because this front grille is made up mostly of paint. There's the classic kind of front plastic area that I'm going to use a detail brush in, but a lot of this is just exposed paint. And so I like to take a soft microfiber towel here, but more importantly, again, in direct sun, 20-to-1 for my bug dilution ratio here. The reason is the exact same. You guys can see how quickly the water has dried, right? If you look at the top hood there's like no water left, right? And so as I get the bugs off, as I am cleaning, the water is drying instantaneously, because it is hot in the summertime, springtime, even sometimes fall in Middle Tennessee around Nashville. And so no matter how hard you try, you are going to get really quick drying water. I dilute 20-to-1 for my bug dilution ratio. Now, the last thing I've done here is pull the Audi into the customer's garage so that I can clay bar it. The reason why I'm doing that, and if this is an option to you, it should be done, is because you would think the clay barring process is kind of the one part of this whole exterior detail that is maybe like the easiest to do in the sun, because it's like, well, you're using distilled water in optimum no rinse solution, like you're not going to get water spots, right? Like this is kind of the one area where you could do it anywhere. That is true, but using a clay bar on black paint outside in the summertime is a nightmare, and what ends up taking forever is working in the small sections that you end up having to work in because the panel is so hot that no matter how much lubricant you spray on the panel, it basically flash dries. And when you get a clay bar without enough lubricant on smoking hot paint that is black, that clay bar basically like strips off material onto the paint, and it can be very difficult to pull off because that clay actually, when it's not adhered to itself, and again, moving over lubricant, it's actually hard to remove. And so the two things I would change, again, if I was working in direct sun, is I would pull the car into the garage because it cools off relatively quickly and you're not sitting and baking. Number two, I would use a clay mitt over a clay bar because you're going to get less of that peeling off effect. Though if you do get any of that with a clay mitt, it is actually even harder to get off the paint. So ensure that you are working in the shade. Now, if you guys want to check out any of the tools or products I mentioned here, I'll hook them up in the YouTube description box below, as well as a link to the free resource I created called the Pro Detailing Toolbox, which is just every single tool and product you need to be successful in the pro detailing world. It comes with master dilution ratio charts, off-label uses, on-label uses, how to use them professionally. It comes with discounts, everything you could possibly imagine. And it's totally free to you just to put all this in one place. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, a great detailer is always learning, and I will see you in the next video.